Well, there's a lot going on yesterday.
Yeah, and it's funny, too. I remember I had this conversation with Lance. This was probably 2011, maybe. And this was in regards to kids, but it's kind of more my life philosophy. It's you can't save them all.
Mm.
Some people are just some people just like to operate in, like, I'm reading some of these DMs last night, and I'm like, wow, like that was your takeaway from this coaching move. Like it's just interesting.
Oh, what was the takeaway?
Yeah, I don't really want to get into it, but it was so.
Because I'm just curious because
there were a lot. There's lots of
wide spectrum.
A lot. Like I could read probably 12 in a row, and I bet you 9 of them are different.
Yeah.
No, probably 7 of them are different.
Mm.
I've got everything from Rhule messed this up. This was his get out of jail free card. We all know what comes next if and when this doesn't work out. I can't function around people like that.
What comes? I don't even know what that means.
I'm gonna move on from that.
Because I don't know what comes next.
What? Yeah, me neither. My boy Troy, he was like, "Man, if you knew what was coming this morning, you should work for the feds if you kept that a secret." I did not.
I don't think anybody knew that was coming.
Not
really. Not that.
I don't even know. So I think I take him at his word, and I'll do some speculating this morning, but I'm gonna take him at his word that, because I kind of know how he thinks, right? Remember when I told you it would kind of bug him sometimes when people would try to predict his move or tell him what to do, because even he didn't know.
Yeah, and he said that.
And I was like, I don't know if I admire that or I'm scared, because I like to be calculated. Mm-hmm. Now, Lord knows, anybody that's around me, like my staff thinks I'm crazy. Most people that can you imagine what those guys were thinking yesterday at the Foaling place?
Yeah.
They had to be like, this dude's off his rocker. But it's like I sometimes I'm so rigid that, like, when I go, I like all the way go.
Yeah.
Right? Just
gotta loosen up a little bit.
It's like a child. And it was a big playground, so I was like, I'm going to play.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah, man.
It was pretty cool.
You think I'm not going to be there?
Yeah.
We'll get to that later. That
was fun. That's a cool place.
Dude, I was throwing like 90-mile-an-hour
heaters
with that thing.
You were getting
like,
after
let's go. It's just like open space, and I'm a child, so I'm like, run.
Yeah.
Isn't that what kids would do?
Yeah.
Just run. No, but I'm like, so then I started thinking, I'm like, what's the difference between like self-awareness and my thing's going crazy. I'm sorry. Being like reactionary. Because he said some things yesterday, and I go all the way back to when I felt like, because somebody asked me when I felt this coming. And when I felt like this was really coming? When I would hear coordinators defend themselves
publicly
to the media.
Yeah.
And remember, I said, no,
you can't go back and get that.
I said, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like just stay the course. Don't do that.
Because it's really hard not to let that impact your decisions moving forward.
Listen, this isn't revisionist history.
No,
because I've talked
that.
about this all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, so what you're going to do is
you're going to overdo it. You're going to overcorrect.
You're going to overcorrect.
Yeah.
You're going to overcorrect because you just get to know people's personality traits.
Well, and that's human nature too.
It depends on your level of security.
Yeah, you have to be really,
this
really
job
secure.
is very difficult, right? So
it can make you very insecure.
Yeah, in a hurry.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh shoot! We're 5-1,
yeah.
and you're saying,
I feel like you have to defend yourself.
You're defending yourself. You're 5-2, and it's like, well, we can score in the fourth. We can. I'm like, oh gosh,
that you can't go back and get.
I'm
that.
like, oh gosh, I've seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
I like.
Because you think like Scott Frost wasn't a confident guy coming in here?
Yeah, he was
supremely.
And he'll too much, right?
He got on top of him and hurt.
And I love to study. I love to study personality traits. So I just racked up. I mean, you working around enough Noddles or Candace Gregory's or some just dynamic people, whether with even the flaws. Like Alan Murrow is a guy I talk about all the time. Where I just watched his personality traits, and I'm like, okay, I can see this happen. I just like doing that stuff, right? So I'm watching all this unfold. That's how I built the head coach that I want through the lab. Remember, I said,
Yep.
I want you to be like this. I want you to be like this. I want you to be like this. I want you to be like this, because this is what this place does. And so when I heard that, I was like, oh boy.
And it's not for everybody. Being here is not for everybody.
And then I listened to the presser yesterday, and I'm like, all right, my man used the word reactionary, which made me think, what did I tell you? And I knew nothing, nothing, not a goddamn thing, except for he was being very observant, especially Monday, Tuesday.
Rhule was.
Coach Holgerson.
Okay.
Got an inkling of kind of what was going on at practice Wednesday and the Thursday, and I'm like, oh, shoot. I wonder if this is like just feeling this out. Clearly, I'm taking him at his word that that's what this was. Like, I think Dana had to come and see, like, okay, what kind of command do I have? Could I do this? Do I like what I'm seeing? Is there enough here to put my name on it? All that type of stuff. So I don't think he knew anything.
Yeah.
You know.
Also, I also don't think Coach Rhule, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, this is what was intended when he brought him in. Like, I take him at his word, too, that I don't think this was the intention when he brought Holgerson in at this point.
And I don't either.
Because it would have been.
You know what I think happened?
What's that?
I'm dead serious. So
because it would have been really hard to bring somebody in and be like, hey, you're going to call plays in 2 weeks.
This is total speculation.
Yeah.
So I think I go back and I listen to all the things that Coach Rhule said about this job. His OC, his DC, what he likes, what he doesn't like. And the whole surgeon comment, right? Like,
he's doing surgery on a train.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're complaining about the stitches and this, that, and the other. And how you talked about Coach Satterfield's loyalty and work ethic. My gut says, because everybody's like, oh, man, this is on Coach. Not everybody. I don't want to exaggerate. Some people are like, oh, man, this is on Coach Rhule. This is on his head. And, well, you just heard one of the comments, right? Like, this is what I think happened. Just because I think, generally speaking, Coach Rhule cheers for people and he champions them in a very transactional world. I could see a situation in which Coach Sag gave him everything he had last year. It was a very, very difficult job. And this year he's like, okay, I told you privately, these are kind of my concerns. This has been our history, because they go in spurts together. They'll be together for a couple of years, and then, Coach Sat, when he first got here, said, every now and again we got to reconnect. We're good for each other.
Don't want to be away from each other for too long.
Stuff like that. Right? So those are things that I know in my head that I think can sometimes impact decisions. So I think so he's like, okay, we got good talent. I like, contrary to popular belief, I like the young wide receiver group. I think we're going to be good enough up front. We finally got a quarterback that I think can really play. Let me give him a chance to see what happens.
You want to give him a chance to flourish
with better ingredients. I at least owe him that. He hung in there with me
through a really rough situation.
His daughter went back to school. Like, there's just a lot going on, right? So I feel like the human component says,
let's give him a chance.
Let's give this a chance.
Yeah.
But Coach Rhule at his core is competitive, right? Like, I said this. That's the type of person that can leave you, tell you he cares about you, walk out of your life, and you're like, I thought you said you cared.
Yeah.
Like, he's just built like that. So once he said he's willing to do whatever it takes, and I said, man, he's letting you know. Like,
yeah, he's not kidding.
He'll do whatever it takes.
He said it again yesterday.
Because of his three components, right? He's self-aware, he's other-centered, and he's competitive. Whatever order you want to put those in. It's no guarantee that that's going to work. But if you have those three components,
you got a chance.
You're always going to give yourself a chance. You're always going to be in the game if you possess those three things. So when I go back and I listen and I heard him say about Coach Holgerson, now let me go back to what I said I liked about him coaching at Houston and West Virginia. What I say about those jobs?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
He said those jobs came. It was weird scenarios in which he was coaching under.
Yeah.
I said he can coach under chaos.
Yeah, especially that West Virginia situation was super weird off the bat.
How can you not handle Cam Ward?
Yeah.
I used to, right? It's like he can. There's just something about his personality where he's not reactionary.
Mm-hmm.
When Coach Rhule said that yesterday, I'm like, I got it. He had some of the same verbiages around Coach Cooper's departure.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever this decision entails. Sometimes this place, it takes a certain temperament to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
He's looking for it in his players. He's looking for it in his coaches. He's looking for it in his staff. And he's gone as far as to look for it in himself.
Yeah, 100%.
Don't kid yourself.
That's that self-awareness right there.
That's okay.
And that's, I mean, I used to talk about this all the time when Frost was here. I thought there was a startling lack of self-awareness.
Yeah, so
for him to be able to turn it around at this job.
So like self-awareness is like the being conscious of your own emotions,
mm-hmm.
how you kind of react. And what that leads to in terms of your choices for reactions.
Yes.
Right? Like that's that self-evaluation. Reactionary is responding to like a stimuli.
I consider it knee
without thinking.
Yeah, I call it knee jerk.
Okay, so that's kind of
it's responding to something without going through the process of kind of understanding why you're responding that way.
Right. I told you this. The scary thing about me is I can think of consequences all the way through,
and then do it anyway,
and still make a bad decision.
Yeah,
because I'll have somehow convinced myself, you know what? The results be with it what it may. At least it's not going to. At least it's
I can eat it. I can eat those.
I can eat it.
Yeah.
It's not going to sneak up on me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I like secretly like admire that or.
I would say it can be a good or bad thing, honestly.
Oh, come on now. It definitely can be a good or bad thing.
Yeah. Like there's
when I'm destructive, it's horrible.
Right, but there are good scenarios where it's like I can see the consequences to the end.
Yeah.
You're like I can live with that.
I've thought this through. It's not. I'm going to know how to handle it.
Even if it doesn't go my way, I can live with it.
Yeah. Like that's
because that can be a hugely positive
100%, I think. So I'm going back to like how he's putting these things together, and I'm like, I wonder how hard it must have been for him to ask for help. Because if there's one thing men can't do, it's ask for help.
Not a lot, yeah. It's hard.
Not as natural born alphas.
Yeah.
And he's clearly a natural born alpha.
I do wonder, like, at what point, though, does the competitiveness bring it back around?
Well, that's where self-awareness comes in.
Because you've got I'm kind of an alpha. I kind of do, like, I don't necessarily want to ask for help. I don't want to have to ask for help.
What do you think the situation was in December and January with Holgerson? And then it just disappeared, and then you got to go back and get it.
So I think that's the part with Satterfield you were talking about. Because I'm guessing.
Or a combination of both.
Yeah. Because I'm guessing, I mean, this is, again, 100% speculation here. I'm guessing Holgerson wanted more of a role and a say, because head coach, probably an alpha as well, wanted more of a role and a say than Coach Rhule wanted to give at the time, because of the thing we were talking about with Satterfield. He wanted to give Sat a chance.
Yeah.
Right? But here's the thing, and I'm glad you brought up the surgeon analogy again. Because, and I don't know if Rhule was thinking about it this deeply at the time.
I'm sure
he probably was.
I'm sure he was. Because remember, they have past history.
Yeah. But listen, there's different types of surgeons, right? There's trauma surgeons that are really good in chaotic ER situations. You come in, you stop the bleeding, you make sure a guy survives, then you turf him somewhere else, right? And then you've got kind of your like neurosurgeons, the guys that are real specific. They're doing these super fine movements. They probably wouldn't do great in a trauma situation, and trauma surgeons wouldn't always do well in a neurosurgeon situation. That's just whatever. That's the first one I thought of. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but they're two different skill sets, right? And I think Coach Rhule want to be like, hey, I want to give him a chance to be in a situation where the world isn't falling around him and see how he does. And maybe Satterfield's a guy that needs the chaos to thrive.
And I think I'm with you. And I think one of the reasons that kept pushing my buttons through that stretch where we were 5-1, where we were just breaking down every win, is I think in my subconscious I was terrified that we needed more to sustain during tough times than we were willing to give.
Sure.
Like I felt like we needed, this is a terrible analogy, but I remember this real time. This is why I was so defiant. Even though I could see some flaws, I'm like, okay, just give us enough cushion of support. Just provide enough cushion of support so if we fall, it won't hurt as bad. Well, you're already stressed. It's high revved. You're defending your record. You're defending your style of play. Like you wasted tension. So you didn't have enough in reserve when it actually
when you needed it.
When it like really hit the fan.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So you'd used up all your reserves.
Yeah. You burned through the reserve fuel.
And so that was the part that not that it's wrong. I felt like it was unnecessary at the time.
Yeah, I think unnecessary is a good word.
So I'm like, fudge. All right. And this isn't about likes or disliking. It's about wanting the best going forward. Because in my head, I'm thinking they just don't have enough resolve to just be getting by emotionally.
Yeah. So
let's control the things that we can control.
You talking about the players?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's rally and know that there's that goodwill.
And try and lift them up a little bit.
And lift them up.
Yeah.
So then when they really got to tap into the reserves, they got a little extra. There. They're not already spent.
Because they're defending their record. Because
the first time they shot their shot and got their teeth kicked in, it was like, I mean, everybody scattered.
Yeah.
Right? So, he kept saying, how do I get through? How do I get them through this? I got to push them through it. I got to push them through it.
Yeah.
I got to push them through it. So now you're to the point where you got to figure out who wants to be pushed, who's going to come out the other side.
So that's the $1 million question.
It is the $1 million question because I don't know. So there's two things I probably know for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know long-term ramifications on Dana. I don't know immediate impact statistically. But there's two things that I know for sure. Number one, in an almost last-ditch effort to instill confidence in the players, he's going to give this one more shot to the players. Hey, listen.
To the older guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, listen. I've given you everything you needed to succeed.
Yep.
Some of you were feeling this way and that way. Now this is it. After this, it's put up or shut up time. You are out. I have exhausted all options
to give you an opportunity to be successful.
Which is, and listen, right or wrong, because it burns me. Who's that sound like? That is exactly my personality.
Yeah.
I'll give you almost every option to kick my teeth in. But the threat.
But once you get to a point,
it's over.
Yeah.
In there is zero coming back.
Yeah.
So
if you're a guy in that locker room and you're having a hard time with the competitive endurance necessary to be a part of Coach Rhule's program, if you're having a hard time doing the things that are necessary, you're having a hard time being mentally tough enough to overcome some of the things that are happening, and you look and he goes, hey, this is a place, this is the caring, not coddling, right? Cares about you, wants to give you every opportunity to succeed, but you can't save everybody.
Yep.
Well, you just said, right?
Yeah.
You cannot save everybody. And so it's like, hey, I've done everything I can do. I even went so far as to get rid of a guy.
Get way out of my comfort zone.
Get way out of my comfort zone to, I mean, let's be honest here. Do something that is fairly publicly embarrassing to a guy I really care about.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So if I'm willing to do that, I need you to be willing to do everything I'm asking of you. Yeah. Because nothing I'm asking of you is going to hurt somebody you care about more than what I just did to Marcus Satterfield, right? That's why he made sure to talk about Marcus Satterfield's character in that moment as well.
And I think that was the whole
So what I think is the result of this is, hey, if you guys aren't built this way, this place isn't going to be for you.
Yep.
I've given you – there's no more excuses.
Yep. And I'll give you where I think Sat pays immediate dividends with regards to what you just said.